What is giving a speech? For many people, giving a speech is a time of anxiety and uncertainty leading up to a moment of not knowing how bad you will fail. At the start of this course, I was no different. I was just like all of those people. I would avoid speech classes at all costs, and I would avoid giving presentations and speaking in front of others. I would avoid talking in front of groups, whatever it would take to get out of a situation. After this course, I feel far more confident in my ability to speak in all settings. Realizing that everyone is feeling what you are feeling right now was a huge thing for me. Nobody's speech is going to be perfect, and everyone is experiencing the same thing that you're experiencing. One of my three biggest takeaways was dealing with public anxiety. For me, this was always my biggest fear with speaking. I was always so afraid that I was going to get up there and I was going to immediately forget what I was going to say. I was going to choke on my words. I was going to start to sweat and stumble on my words. I would just think to myself that I'm going to make a total fool out of myself up there and everyone is going to laugh at me and I'll just be humiliated. Throughout the course, I learned how to handle this. In an article by the Mayo Clinic, it goes over big key steps on how to reduce the stress you feel that comes with speaking anxiety. For me, the three biggest takeaways I got from the article was, one, if you truly know your topic you're talking about, it makes it so much easier. Practice your speech over and over and over, helps out quite a lot. And just, you have to remember to slow down and breathe during your speech. You can't let the anxiety overwhelm you, and you can't start to speak too fast and just forget to breathe. It'll end up terribly. All of these were a huge success in improving my speeches. After I applied these skills to my speech, I feel like my conversation flows much better and I just sound far more natural with my speeches. My second big takeaway from this class was just practice your speech. For my first two speeches, I hardly practiced at all. I remember the first night of class and we went over my introduction speech and I had to do it like 30 times because I didn't practice and I wanted it to be perfect. Every time I messed up, I would get upset at myself and I would derail my speech and we would have to start over. For my song speech, I practiced for a few hours at night and it still just ended up terribly. It was a little bit better, but it was still pretty terrible. But my Walter Cronkite speech, I practiced hours and hours and hours, and I practiced days. I got good feedback from my family over what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. And the extra practice I put into it really made a huge difference. I was able to do that speech in one take, and it flowed really well the whole time. I still made mistakes during the speech, but instead of getting upset and derailing myself, I was able to recover, and I just kept on presenting the speech until we got to the end of it. And also, on top of all of that, the text actually says you should practice for a 10-minute speech for 10 hours. So using that, about an hour every minute you go is a good reference point. And on my Walter Cronkite speech, I believe it was 5 minutes, and I think I put over 10 hours into practice on that one. And the last big takeaway I had, or one of the last big takeaways, you need to be very concise when you speak. You, as a speaker, it's your job to understand that the audience has a limited attention span, and you need to get your point across as fast as possible. According to Allison Shapira, CEO and founder of Global Public Speaking, the biggest thing you should think of when giving a speech, you should consider the next day. What do you want these people to talk about the next day after your speech? Before this course, I would always just get really rambly when I gave a speech because I was so nervous, and I wouldn't think of what do I want this person to talk about the next day after my speech is over. I would just try and mumble my way through the speech. After that way of thinking, it's really a really new way of thinking for me because I would have never considered that in the past. So that was another big takeaway for me. And then lastly, I think my biggest takeaway of all from this class is you need to be confident when you speak and you need to give it your own kind of personality. When you're confident when you speak, your words are going to come so much easier and you're going to use a more confident tone. In the past, I would just kind of try and mumble and ramble my way through the speech, using a low tone, trying to make sure that no one could understand me or hear me, because if they couldn't understand me, they wouldn't know if I messed up. But now, I feel far more confident when I speak. Look people in the eye when you talk to them, use a more loud voice where people can clearly understand what you're trying to say, and be very concise with your words. Don't go on 4 side tracks while you're trying to give a story. You need to get to the point very fast. Thank you.